question the bill that wants to criminalize biblical passages and other religious texts, and everything that you put online is now in the purview of the liberal government, which is not great. And again, if you violate criminal code, I don't generally have a problem with criminal code applying online, but inventing more crimes to fit the things that people are doing online in order to criminalize people's behavior, I don't agree with. I think if the criminal code is violated, then sure, you can bring your charges, make your case, and do what you need to do to get justice. But I don't think justice really is something that you can get in Canada these days because our institutions are corrupted at this point in time. But in a usual sense, I think that system works well. And now the system is being turned on its head by the government, who's saying, oh no, the internet is terribly dangerous and we need to be able to, crack down on these people. Use the criminal code. Don't make these laws in order to target innocent citizens who you want to criminalize. And I think that this is kind of the hallmark of how the liberals govern, and it's terrible. Carney is doubling down on net zero. He's saying, oh, we're going to build charging stations across the country. And gas stations were built by the private sector for the most part, I think, weren't they? And they were attached to convenience stores, and it was a money-making opportunity for these people. The charging stations seem like the government has to build them. There isn't much of a benefit to them. They're very expensive. Copper thieves are going to target them. There's all sorts of problems with this whole plan. And I think that it is expensive, and it's an expensive boondoggle that we are going to have to pay for. And well, I mean, what else is new, right? Kickbacks for Telsat. Carney is friends with the CEO of Telsat, and they've been chasing this dream of a what is it? SpaceX? No, Starlink-like product made in Canada. And well, the Telsat people are on the hook from their creditors for fraudulent dealing. So great. Let's send them more of our tax dollars. That sounds like a good idea. And mass shooting in British Columbia yesterday. The RCMP are using preferred pronouns for that person. So weird. It's a wild and crazy time in Canada. Lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, CTV News in Vancouver says more than half of British Columbians fear for their safety, survey suggests. Yes, in Canada, things are getting more violent, more chaotic. There was a person in BC who asked a guy not to smoke drugs in front of his daughter, and he was killed for it. And everybody just kind of shrugged and carried on. And that's really strange. The violence, and a friend of mine went and experienced Vancouver for themselves. They were just out there visiting family, and they decided to go into Vancouver for the day. And it's great. She said it's like going to, she said it was absolutely jarring. It was so bad that she couldn't quite believe what she was seeing. And I believe I've seen the videos, but holy cow, being immersed in it, I couldn't imagine, right? So yikes. And people feeling like Canada is less safe. It's not just a feeling. I think that it actually is less safe. And the stats back it up, despite the Liberals trying to hide the numbers or reclassify the numbers or let criminals out of jail and not put people in jail. So that keeps the numbers down. And so the reports don't look terrible, but it's terrible. It's much worse than it was when I was a kid. And from my anecdotal experience. And so that's weird. Tamara Litch says, this is incredibly sad news from Tumbler Ridge. My sincere condolences to the families of the victims in the community. 401 Desparnich says, RCMP respond to active shooter incident at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School in British Columbia. 10 confirmed dead, including the suspect described as a female in a dress. That's weird. With brown hair, was located deceased, 25 others injured. And so people are sharing images that are not the shooter. I shared one. I don't know if it's the shooter or not. Some people said it wasn't, but when I looked at the account that was attributed to the shooter, it didn't look like the images that people said were the shooter. So there's lots of misinformation out there about who the shooter is and so on and so forth. So take it all with a grain of salt. But at the same time, when you give children SSRIs, you're doing something to their emotions. You're flattening their emotions. You're making it so they don't have emotions. And a lot of these people turn into violent shooters or have the potential to turn into a violent shooter. And maybe that's why they're put on these medications. Maybe these medications aren't good for people anyway. That's just speculation, but holy smoke, right? These things keep happening, and it's one demographic, right? Or we're not supposed to notice that. Cosman says an emergency alert was issued for an active shooter incident at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School in northeast British Columbia. RCMP say the suspect, the original suspect, described as a female in a dress, was found dead. And then somebody said, I found this online. It says, hi, everyone. My name's Anna. I'm from Tumbler. I moved here a few months ago, and I'm going to say this is the biggest tragedy that I've ever seen in my life. This young man dressed up as a girl, killed his mom, his kid brother, and sister, and then decided he was going to go to the high school to make a scene. This is such a tragedy. I hope every parent learns from this tragedy. And I give my prayers to all families that were in the school and to the parents. So I don't have any further information other than what's being reported, but I think it's very, very strange how the RCMP is trying to frame this. The female in a dress is, I don't think, factually accurate. So that's weird that the RCMP is not putting out facts after a crime like this. And they're using words like gun person, and they're trying to frame this person as somebody who's familiar with guns, grew up around guns, and I guess his family hunted and allowed him to use guns and be well-versed in guns. Moshi says, did Canadian authorities just really respect pronouns after a mass shooting by using gun person? This societal mental illness needs to stop. And Chris says, new word just dropped. So nobody's ever, since 2021 anyway, searched for the word gun person until yesterday, until like last night. So very, very strange framing. Zachary says, I was repeatedly told by communists that these tragedies can't happen in Canada because we have strict gun control. I was repeatedly told by these communists that these tragedies are unique to the United States because of the Second Amendment. Surprise, surprise, they were wrong again. And it seems what's happening is far worse than we know. And the guns aren't the ones doing the killing. It's people who have disassociated with their emotions because of psychotropic or because of drugs, but not just like meth or marijuana or something like that. It's not illegal drugs or even like plants that they're doing. They're doing this with mental health drugs, right? And like, talk to somebody who's been on SSRIs. They say they feel numb. They don't feel anything. It's very flat. You know, they don't feel really happy and they don't feel really sad. They just kind of feel flat. They feel like they should act like they feel happy, but they don't feel anything. And that's bad. Like, if you don't feel anything, that's bad. Here's House of Commons staffer. This is another aspect of the gun stuff, but they're trying to create a registry. People have been raging against the registry for a long time. I agree with not having a registry, because if they had a registry, then you'd have to register which guns you had. And then if they decide to make that gun illegal, they could show up at your door and say, we know you have this gun. And right now, they don't know. As far as I understand it, they don't know. And so House of Commons staffer says, had a firearms license before 2021, your data was hacked. So hack was linked to gun licensing program, was the biggest federal data breach in the last 5 years. So if you are a firearms license owner, that database was targeted and your information was removed. Isn't that concerning? I think that's concerning. Like, that's pretty wild. And it doesn't make me feel like just giving all of our information to the federal government for like a centralized digital ID and centralized registration for healthcare and like everything for me. It doesn't seem like that's a good idea, because it doesn't seem like they can keep that data safe, because historically in recent history, very recent history, they were unable to keep that data safe. So what's changed? Nothing. They're not able to keep that data safe now either. Let's talk about trade very quickly. Donald Trump used to like the bridge. Now he doesn't like the bridge. Why did he change his mind on the bridge? And Caroline Levitt says, because he's looking after America's interests. So there you go. Yep.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Yesterday, the president on social media threatened to block the new Gordie Howe Bridge, which would connect Detroit to Canada. This is a bridge that was fully paid for by Canada. It used American labor to construct it. It used American steel to construct that bridge. The president in 2017 was actually in favor of this bridge, part of a joint statement that he put out when he met with the Canadian Prime Minister. Why has the president changed his mind as it relates to this bridge?
I think the president was very clear and direct in his truth, John, but just to reiterate, the fact that Canada will control what crosses the Gordie Howe Bridge and owns the land on both sides is unacceptable to the president. It's also unacceptable that more of this bridge isn't being built with more American-made materials, even more so than what President Barack Obama committed to with the Canadians at the time, at the start of the project. He also believes that the U.S. should own at least half of the bridge, have shared authority over what passes across it, and participate in the economic benefits generated by its use. This is just another example of President Trump putting America's interests first, and so he made that very clear in his call with Prime Minister Carney earlier today.
There you go. So Carney's been informed as well. So that's half that bridge is ours, yo. So very interesting. Food professor says this picture was taken 5 days ago vis-a-vis trade. And he says Prime Minister Carney and the dairy farmers of Canada. So there you go, pictured 5 days ago. Everybody's looking happy, right? Oh, yes, Mr. Prime Minister, you'll protect our interests from that evil orange man, right? I can assure you, says the food professor, supply management stays. They own politicians, all politicians. Yes. When I was running for PPC, there were people who were trying to sabotage me, and at least one of them was, or there was a group of them that were QB'd by a medium large dairy farm in Wilmot. Why? I don't know. His dad owned the dairy farm in Wilmot. He was at the University of Guelph, and he was QBing the whole thing. And I asked him, and then I asked his dad, and his dad was even more mad at me. He's like, how dare you? I was like, okay. Anyway, very interesting stuff happening. But the dairy cartel will go after you, period. They're kids. And if they get called out, they'll double down bigly. Olivia says, Justice Minister John Fraser accuses the Conservatives of continuing obstruction on Bill C-9, the Combating Hate Act. Hate doesn't have a definition. The hate definition for me could be different than the hate definition for you. I hate broccoli. I've got my reasons, and you back off. Broccoli, you know what you did. And so like the government doesn't have any hand in that. Like I can hate who I want. So long as I don't breach the criminal code, I can hate who I want and in which way I want. Again, as long as I don't breach the criminal code. And so they're trying to make an emotion illegal. No, you have actions that can be illegal, not emotions.
Before Christmas with their willingness to obstruct the Justice Committee, and it's immensely frustrating at this late stage in the process because we are trying to collaborate. We have seen requests from the Conservatives to shift the definition of hate in the bill. We're willing to accommodate those. We have seen requests to change the requirements around the role of the consent of the Provincial Attorney General. We're willing to accommodate those requests. We've seen calls to make clear that you're not able to classify reading religious texts as hate. We're willing to accommodate that, and we would be willing to put text directly in the bill to indicate that the willful promotion of hatred is not including reading religious texts or ordinary practice of faith. And what we're seeing right now is that none of these complaints were actually what their opposition to the bill was about. We want to establish a standalone hate crime in this country to ensure that we recognize that hate is not limited to the doorsteps of our religious institutions. We are hearing complaints from the Jewish community who are seeing assaults take place in grocery stores and harassment on university campuses. We are seeing the queer community afraid to hold the hand of their partner for fear that they're going to be attacked for who they are. We are seeing racial communities who continue being targeted for criminal behavior on the basis of the color of their skin. We want to move forward with a law that will help protect all communities against hate, and it's sad to see the Conservatives are willing to obstruct the criminal justice agenda more broadly.
So just to be clear,
you can't broadly define hate to include all of those things. You have to have a narrow bill that says you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And then you have to debate that bill on its merits about that thing. Is this thing a big enough problem that we have to do this? Is this thing valid? Does the consequence harmonize with the crime? Do the two things make sense, right? Like if you're jaywalking, does it make sense for you to have 20 years in prison? Probably not, right? Like, so it's one of those things where they're trying to use hate to cover all of these different things that really, not that you can't cover, but you can't just say, well, that's hateful, so we're going to throw you in jail for 20 years. I'm sorry, like the woman who was vandalizing what's it called? The subway in Toronto. Apparently she was caught and they're going to prosecute her as a hate crime. I don't know what kind of sentence she's looking at or anything like that. But if you vandalize a train station, should you get 20 years in jail? No. No, you should not. Right? Especially when you've got people who have been killing people and they get out on promise to, or raping people and they get out on promise to appear. That seems crazy, doesn't it? I mean, absolutely bonkers. So these people are trying to form the laws into something they can manipulate and sound justified manipulating it. Like say, oh yeah, well, we all hate. Like, hold on a second. Do you understand what you just said? If you hate, then you hate yourself. Oh my gosh. Right? This is, it's going to implode on itself, right? Like the whole thing is a ridiculous exercise in brainwashing, in psychological management. It's crazy. Oh yeah, we all hate. Yep, we're very hateful of hate. There's nothing a Canadian hates more than hate. So yeah, we're hate-filled for hate. So that's 20 years in prison. How dare you be hateful, you Canadian? But we hate. It's a good hate. Oh gosh. Stupidity. It's absolute stupidity. X-Freeze says Tim Cook has turned Apple News into a pure left-wing propaganda machine. A new study reveals shocking bias. Out of 620 top stories in January, Apple News featured 440 left-leaning outlets and 0 conservative outlets. That's 96 consecutive days without a single right-leaning story. Not even one. Washington Post featured 72 times, NBC 50 times, Fox, New York Post, Daily Wire blacklisted. Hundreds of millions of users are being force-fed one-side narratives. He is personally turning 100 million iPhone users into a left-wing echo chamber. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And people don't necessarily use the Apple News app, but it's one of those things where they exert their power and shape the conversation through exclusion, right? If nobody ever sees a right-wing point of view, and I mean, right-wing is not bad necessarily, right? Like people think, oh, right-wing is so bad. Conserving public safety would be good, don't you think? No? Conserving freedom and personal accountability and responsibility would be good. No? Yes, I think it would be good. And so that side of conservatism is never shown. If it's a conservative, he's somebody saying you can't have a girlfriend, right? Like they're framed as terrible people, totally ignoring the cultural destruction that is being heaped on by this ideology. Isn't that weird? It's super weird. Western Standard says city seizes homeowners F Trudeau and Carney signs. I would assume F Carney as well, signs twice, raising charter concerns. So they've seized it and they got them back and then they seized it again. So that's pretty brutal. I don't think the city has the right to do that, although they're probably saying that the FK is violating some kind of bylaw that says you can't have swears or something like that on there. And so I think that's weird, right? Like that's an interesting situation, if you ask me. And I think it's a clear charter violation, but I don't think that anybody's going to do a damn thing about it. And that's something that's problematic, again, if you ask me. I've got to say goodbye to the stream, mainly because I have a bit of a short show today and I've just been absolutely slammed. I got busy yesterday and I'm busy for the rest of the week and it's like, holy smoke. So I didn't have much of a chance to get my tabs done. I've got enough, but I feel like I want to give value to the people who are supporting the show. So I'm going to cut the stream a little bit early today. So thanks for watching, everybody. If you want the whole show, head over to CanadaPoly.com. If not, that's okay. I'll be around tomorrow. And for everybody else, we will carry on.